This is Coder Radio, episode 181 for November 30th, 2015. Welcome to Coder Radio, Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly talk show taking a pragmatic look at the art and business of software development and related technologies. This episode is brought to you by our two fine sponsors, DigitalOcean and Linux Academy. I'll tell you more about those great sponsors as this here show goes on. My name? Why, that's Chris. That's right. And joining us every single week, oh, you know it, it's Mr. Michael Dominic, the host of the Coder Radio program established on the East Coast. Hey there, Mr. Dominic.
Misa time has come!
There it is, everybody! Yeah, it is getting close. Are you getting hyped? I mean, be honest. Be like, because I tell you what, I haven't bought a ticket. I'm not even a huge Star Wars guy. And accidentally, over the weekend, I started getting hyped. Accidentally.
Not really, no. I'm not hyped at all, actually.
Really? Because here's what, it's funny. I fell backwards into it because I started realizing, geez, I have never seen more preemptive promotion for a movie in my life. And I started building up this whole narrative in my head about how ridiculous Hollywood is and how they're slamming in our face and how Disney is taking a franchise and cross-promoting it. And then I started to go, and how dare those jerks put all this crap in our face when that movie is, whoa, it's like 4 weeks away. It's like actually almost here.
Yeah, no, it's right here, yeah.
Yeah, and then I realized, and then the next question was that somebody asked me, seriously, they were reading my mind because I was at Thanksgiving. Have you bought your tickets yet? And I was like, no. And then I realized I kind of regret that. Now, there's no way I'm going opening night. No way.
No. That ship sailed a month ago.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't even want to be in on that. I wouldn't even want that. That's like going to get the iPhone on opening day. It's crazy. There's a line. It's ridiculous. It's only way worse. And I can't even stand people. So that's just not a good recipe. When you don't like people, you don't like crowds, and you don't like waiting in line, if that's you and like me, not your kind of evening. Not your kind of evening.
Yeah.
Just got to watch out.
I just don't think any movie is going to really touch me as much as Gem and the Holograms did.
No, for me, yeah. Well, for me, it was Babe.
The pig?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The way they made that pig talk, dude, it just gets me all, oh man, it just touches you, dude. So guess what? It's a holiday Coder Radio in a sense, right? Because
that was supposed to be a turkey. I don't know.
Hold on, let's see. How do turkeys? Oh yeah, boy, yeah. Let's not do that. Let's not go there.
Seemed that sounded like something else.
Yes. Well, you see, here's the thing, Mr. Dominic. There's a couple of things that actually happened over the holiday week. We have a few things to talk about, and we've actually gotten some great input from the audience on some open source projects. We thought maybe we'd sprinkle a little attention to. We'll just do that briefly. And then today, Microsoft. It's so interesting because we were just recently talking about their Android bridge and their iOS bridge, and today it's not quite the same thing, but it's actually maybe a much more practical, straightforward approach. And now starting to understand why Microsoft killed their bridge projects. We have a really interesting announcement from Microsoft today, and then in the feedback segment, I'm going to take it to the gut, like 2-3 punches to the gut, and then if I can still get a breath out, I'll read the rest of this guy's email. He tears me up.
I like it.
I know. I noticed that you put that one in the feedback. You selected that one.
Oh, I never look at the feedback.
Yeah. Thanks, Mr. Dominic. Thanks. And then, of course, we also have a potential job opening that may be particularly applicable to the Jupiter Broadcasting crew. And Mr. Dominic himself has a little bit of interesting business news to share with us. So why don't we start there? Let's start with the open source picks of 2015 coming out of these fine folks that you may be familiar with over at Buccaneer.io. Open source picks for 2015. Tell me a little bit about this, Mr. Dominic.
Well, it's just something I've been doing every year, right?
Yeah.
Used to do it under my personal site. Now I'm doing it under Buccaneer. Basically, 2 or 3 open source libraries or projects that really had an effect on, the previous year. It's November. Nothing's going to change in December, right? So it's okay to call it. And plus Thanksgiving. It's nice to be thankful. So let's just jump right into it. This year, Electron. If you don't know what Electron is, I don't know where the hell you've been. It is powering Atom, Visual Studio Code, and a bunch of other apps you've probably not heard of. But it is how would you call it, Chris? Would you call it a Node.js not really Node, but an HTML5 wrapper JavaScript app.
Yeah, it's this has become the big thing. You got Heroupad, you got Atom, you got this is the big thing now because you can base it on the Chromium base or whatever and build some really cool stuff. So didn't we talk about Electron on the show?
We did way back when. Another one of our, hey, look at this, and turns out.
And now you have Atom, you have Visual Studio Code, you have, like I just mentioned, Heroupad, and a couple of others actually as well. And really, if I recall, is this also what Sublime Text is based on? Is it like the first? Is Sublime Text like the OG Chromium based or Node.js?
Nope.
No.
Nope.
Okay.
Not even close.
Okay. No wonder I like it more. Oh, I mean.
Sublime Text, I believe, is right. C++. Oh, wow. Are you?
I had a little turkey in there.
Wait, are you about to lay that Qt stuff on me again?
No, man, no. I actually Atom and Visual Studio Code. I've tried them both, and they're respectable. Right. And Electron too.
Yeah, so that's it. I mean, very boring picks this year, by the way. Chris, can you guess what the second pick is, even though you have it on the screen, so you're totally cheating?
Let's see. If I could look back over the last few weeks, think back.
It's AshleyMadison.com.
Yeah, of course, it's the Ionic Framework, which has played a big role for you recently, and something that it was interesting to watch because you were obviously toying with it for a while, and then as you built more momentum with it, you brought it on the show for a little bit, and then a few weeks later, we started to see, you've been working on something with this.
Absolutely. So, like I say in the post, saying Ionic is cheating only a lot because you're also saying AngularJS, Cordova, and a number of other things. But I would say that. Are you ready for the hype machine?
I'm ready. Oh, I'm always ready, dude.
Mobile cross-platform development toolkits. It's a game changer. It's a freedom changer.
Actually, but you've been down this route before and been disappointed. What is the difference this time, sir?
The difference is the biggest feature of Ionic is that it's Cordova. Right. All it is Cordova. That's simplification, but right, all your Cordova plugins work. If let's say you have your super secret custom whatever plugin, you can use it. With a little bit of Angular goodness to make your code readable and not a piece of crap. So hey.
I wanted to also point out that this journey has sort of burned you a few times. So to be honest with you, when you came on the show I didn't say it at the time, I don't think. But when you came on the show and started talking about Ionic Framework, I thought, is this finally the one? Because I mean, this has been an area that development shops that are at a certain size that are trying to be able to provide something of real value. And your thing here is if you can work with something like Ionic Framework and create applications of value to other small businesses in a way that is quickly reproducible for you, templatable for you in some circumstances,
right,
and deliverable on multiple platforms, but then also maintainable. It's sort of like a secret sauce. Like the audience hates it when I do this, and I'm sorry, guys, but one of the things that Wirecast enabled Jupiter Broadcasting to do years ago was have real-time video component switching and input selection and live streaming, and then I just had to combine it with my ability to live camera switch and multitask. And that gave us a leg up because I figured that software out years ago and integrated it into the production workflow. That at the time was just me, just a dude. That gave a dude the ability to have, a handful of podcasts that were video and audio, and not only video and audio, but delivered in a couple of hours, right, after production. And it was essentially, Wirecast was my Ionic Framework. It gave me the framework for media production to go build it through this thing, make it super reliable, make it super as reliable as it can be, and make it reproducible, and then build it at scale. And so I understand why you have been going down this path of, well, let's try out this particular framework, or let's go spend some time over with the mono guys and all of this.
It's also a question of scale, right? Of course, if you want the the sexiest app, if you want to be the TechCrunch darling or whatever, you're going to go double native if you want to be on both platforms. But the problem is, we're tiny, like really tiny. So the overhead that would be required to do that correctly, right? Of course, you can definitely pump out 2 crappy native apps. Totally do it. But to do it correctly, to have any kind of quality control, any kind of consistency, it's just not where we are, right? It's just not. I mean, as these platforms, and every year we do this, right? Every spring, every summer, all the additions, all the deprecations. Frankly, if you're an individual or you're a very small boutique or a small business, I don't know how you can actually be double native. So the problem I was facing was, do we want to be that one platform, right? And spoiler alert, that platform would have been Android, actually. But for a reason that is stupid, but kind of makes sense. Or do we want to deal with reality as it stands now, focus on more of a business market and less on the high-end, super get me into TechCrunch app market, and go and find a cross-platform solution? Now, Xamarin was a freaking disaster. I mean, there's just no, there's really no way around that.
Yeah, I mean, it just was the biggest disappointment, I think, of maybe the show. And but it kind of, I wondered if there was like a big enough disaster for you.
It was the worst decision I think I've ever made.
Right, and I wondered if that was a big enough disaster that you would give up on this concept. So when Ionic Framework came around, I mean, that was a big deal. I mean, that to me was like, okay, this isn't just this is, you're willing to fall in love again, basically, because the fundamentals of the relationship are much more sound. Essentially, is what it came down to.
It's also, and I don't want to turn this into another Ionic show because we're becoming the Ionic Love Fest hour again.
We could go back to talking about iPhones and watches if you'd rather do that.
I'm wearing my Moto 360 right now. The Xamarin is asking you to make a much bigger change of life than Ionic is, right? Basically, Xamarin's asking you to change your sexual orientation, where Ionic is asking you to pick up the wet towel off the floor. So, it's kind of apples and oranges.
Yeah, I'm saying it's a way better relationship. I understand. Trust me, I do understand. But I'm just thinking to myself here, I'm surprised you were brave enough to love again.
Well, I will, to be honest, and then we'll get off this. It was either find a way to get a lot of money, right, which would have meant investment, and nobody invests in development shops because that's insane. Or, try to go to a bank and borrow money, which, credit's tight these days, right? Or do something like this and focus on a market that makes sense. This is a topic for a different day, but the economics of the app market for the small company, if it's not an internal tool or some type of line of business app,
this is not your core focus. It's not your core business.
It's not your core business. Yeah. And more importantly, if you're the app company, right, you're the development shop, you could make the best iOS app, right? You could make the best Android app. But to really do that and have a team of like 2 people, right, or 3 people, or let's just say below 5, I could be wrong. I mean, we're assuming you're not offshoring a bunch of it or doing other kinds of weird contracting stuff. I do not believe a team of that size can really produce something for that, Pando Daily TechCrunch market without VC funding or without 6 to 9 months back of significant capital, right?
Yeah, or another legitimate approach would be having another revenue stream as an existing business, and then having enough a spare revenue to invest in a new project like this.
Well, that's effectively what I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
The difference was, okay, so now if you're going to do that and your revenue stream is going to be consulting, you have to think about, well, what do your clients actually want? Because most of the time, there are very few people who can afford 2 really nice native applications that a small company can actually close, right? Because, you're not going to close BMW unless it's just the way it is, right? It's just not going to happen. So it kind of got into a position of, okay, we need some sort of cross-platform toolkit that looks decent and that can get the job done at budgets that, wouldn't make Donald Trump blush, or, as is more his way, scream and throw a baseball cap at someone. Probably Carly Fiorina.
Yeah.
He's a jackass.
And really, and we're going to get off this. I swear to God, we're going to get off this. There's just not that many options, right? There's Xamarin. There's PhoneGap Classic, which probably would have been the answer if not for pulling in the Ionic stuff. And there's a bunch of much smaller, much more dubious, like Joe Blow's framework that you can buy for $1,000 and see what happens. But that's not something I was willing to gamble on. I'll put it to you that way. And Ionic being open source also huge, huge. Because worst case scenario, we tried it on little things. We did proof of concepts. We wouldn't have lost, let's say, a couple $1,000s on a Xamarin license, right? So that's my rant for the day. All right, Ionic people, you can mail the check. Thanks. Great.
Nice. No, I mean, legit. It's legit. And I'm glad you put it on there. We'll have a link if you want to read the entire post in the show notes. Actually, while we're talking about Buccaneer I.O., I mean, it is the season. There's a Black Friday holiday season offer. Like, go over there. It's hot. Like a sale, Mr. Dominic. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so we're doing a little promotion. From now until December 31st, we are offering basically a free consultation on a development project. There are some terms. You can read it. There's a post about it on Buccaneer I.O. But the terms are pretty simple. You have to have signing authority. You have to be able to legally enter a contract, i.e. you can't be 10. That's about it. I mean,
so it's going on until December 31st. Free consultation up to 45 minutes for any new mobile development project that you might be interested in getting developed. So there you go. That's actually really slick to give people a little idea, especially with 2016 coming up. If you work somewhere and you're like, we need to do an app, you guys. It is 2016, and you want to get it in the budget, good time to talk to Mike. Get a 45-minute consultation. Right there. Go check it out. We'll have a link in the show notes over at buccaneer.io. That's pretty cool, Mr. Dominic.
Yeah, see what's out there. And again, it doesn't hurt you. I'm not a high-pressure sales guy, so the consultation would almost certainly be with me. Doesn't hurt you to try it, right? Yeah,
there you go. Check it out. And, by the way, little promo. For those our patrons over at patreon.com/today and /unfiltered, we're going to be giving away some swag. Watch for a swag link in the show notes. There won't be a link in this week because it's November 30th. But we'll let you know in a future episode there'll be a swag link. And if you have a successful Patreon payment, you can get on that. We're doing some fundraising for the network as well over at patreon.com/today, so that way we can budget plan for 2016. And there is always more growth, replacements, improvements, and staffing to be done. And we really want to do that with our audience in mind and not advertisers. We love our advertisers, but we like to be selective. And so this is how we do that. Over at patreon.com/today. You just have to have a successful payment in November of any amount for Today or Unfilter Patreons. And watch for a swag link in the show notes. We'll tell you more about it very soon. But there is some cool swag coming up. Some good stuff for Coda Radio, too. So watch for that. So on Twitter, you and I asked the audience what they were thankful for in terms of open source projects. And I just wanted to bust through a couple of these pretty quick because I thought this first one from Dom was pretty cool. A Pi Music Box, which I haven't tried yet, but that does sound like a neat project. Tiny RSS, absolutely. This is your own hosted Google Reader. You could easily throw it on a droplet or run it on a VM or on your local machine. And there's apps that can connect and sync with it too. Kdenlive Live for editing. KeyPass X, I got to agree there too. Kodi, which is a great multimedia center. FreeNAS, if you want a really great solid backend network storage box, how can you beat FreeNAS? OwnCloud, and of course he says Ubuntu Mate. Did you experiment with Ubuntu Mate this year, Mr. Dominic?
Indeed I did.
And what did you think? Did you end up sticking with it? Did you end up...
Actually, I did like it.
Yeah.
It brought me back to 2006.
Yes, it does a little bit.
It was nice. A lot faster than Unity, actually.
That's the thing. That's the thing about 2006.
Yeah, its main feature, especially if you don't have a graphics card.
Yeah. Or you want to save battery. You got like one of those Intels and you want an Intel graphics and you want every available scrap of power. Garsh wrote in. Sorry, Jairus. Not sure. He says, I got to mention WordPress when he tweeted Buccaneer Tech and Chris Elias. I'm thankful for making it my blogging life easy. Yeah. WordPress, as we covered earlier, has gone huge this year. I mean, this is the year they really took over. Frostclaw20 says, Arch Linux, Tux Guitar, Pythos, which is a badass Pandora client. If I recall, it was an app pick a long time ago. OpenSCAD, Corora Engine, Gparted, an excellent partition
Gparted
manager.
is a great choice.
Yeah, Gparted is solid, and it is a very valuable piece of software. I get lazy, and it's very nice. He says ClipGrab, which is good screenshotting software, LibreOffice, Firefox, and last but not least, Mumble. Mumble is pretty cool too.
Yeah, Firefox is a good call too. They don't get enough respect, really.
Yeah, or Mozilla in whole, right?
In general, right?
Yeah.
Persona was still a good idea.
Yeah. Also, I really like that their main focus is the web. Google might be making a good browser right now, but their focus is Google on the web. You know what I mean? And Mozilla's focus is an open web, and that feels pretty good. That's what I like. You know what else I like? Sponsors like Linux Academy. Holy cow. Go check them out over at linuxacademy.com/coders to get the Coder Radio discount and also a little vote for the long-term staying power of your Coder Radio program over at linuxacademy.com/coders. This is really something. This isn't like any other online educational platform because they really focus on the core technologies in the whole open source ecosystems and obviously things that run on Linux. And why that's phenomenal for you is it means it's not just a checkbox in their features, it is really something they do. I was looking here over at some of the things. I printed it out because it's such a list. And for the Red Hat certified courses, unbelievable progress this year. Unbelievable progress over. This is like the official resource now. Also, they have Linux Foundation certs, which are getting more and more respect and valuable. I think that's a big deal. They launched the Professional Development Certification platform. They have a new learning tool that is so awesome. Rather than just checking solutions as when you're done, you're going to now get instant feedback on exercises, whether you're performing them correctly and how you should have done it instead. They have scenario-based trainings, so that way you can really work with the technology. They have instructor help available whenever you need it. They have live streams you can tune into. They have a great community because it's stacked full of JB community members. They have a really cool system where they have, you start out, you say, I want to take this course, I want to use this distro, 7 distros to choose from, actually more. And it then modifies the courseware, which is pretty cool, right? It also then modifies the VM it spins up, so you automatically get that kind of VM. You can SSH into that thing. You're really working with the technology. You're getting actual production experience. Tons of courses. Really good stuff, downloadable comprehensive study guides. You can keep them offline, refer to them, listen to them when you're in the shower, which, I mean, hey guys, thank you for all of you who tell me that you listen to Linux Academy stuff in the shower. You know what? I know I might have mentioned this recently, but I started getting so many people telling me, like, honestly, it's more than a dozen people now have told me that they listen to Linux Academy in the shower. And I was like, what is it? And I kind of got a little jealous. Why aren't they listening to me in the shower? But then I realized it's because shower thoughts. Like, I am seriously my best in the shower. I come up with my best stuff in the shower. I'm brilliant. I'm a genius. I'm Einstein in the shower. I get out of the shower, I'm a mess. But in that shower, I'm Einstein. Now I understand that's why they do it. Because they're just getting they're absorbing it like sponges. Ooh, gross. Over at linuxacademy.com/coders, you get the Coder Radio discount. You get signed up. Go check them out. Go get all experience with the AWS stuff. Seriously. It's a great way to do that without getting fined by Amazon for a stupid tax. OpenStack, yeah, they got that business. Docker, of course they know about that. rsync, backup, firewalls, KVM. I mean, come on. They know everything. Now you just have to go soak up what you want. They got it all. They put like all of the brains over there over at linuxacademy.com/coders. Also, for those of you who like to watch on their Linux box without any flash, nice, sexy new HTML5 player, but the best part, kicking CDN to make sure you get those files as fast as possible. Just nice continuous improvements over at Linux Academy. So go to linuxacademy.com/coders. And a big thank you to Linux Academy for sponsoring the Coder Radio program. All right, Mr. Dominic, I wanted to put this in your face and see what you thought about this, because I think this sort of puts the whole shutting down of the bridge experiments in perspective. Microsoft has taken the wraps off of PowerApps, a mobile app creation software. Microsoft has opened up a limited preview of its PowerApps service for creating, sharing, and managing mobile business apps on iOS, Android, and Windows devices. PowerApps, which was codenamed Project Karatos, I don't know. It's designed to allow business users and developers to create custom native mobile and web apps that can be shared simply across their organizations. The tooling framework that's at the heart of PowerApps is based on the Project Sienna business development tools. God, whatever, who cares? The Microsoft began working on several years ago, but then kind of put off to the side, didn't really tell anybody about. Under the covers, PowerApp services run on, you guessed it, Azure, and integrates with the Azure Active Directory, Azure App Services, and Azure Media Services. The PowerApp services connect to Office 365 data via the Microsoft Graph Application Programming Interface. PowerApps are native apps that can install on iOS and Android and Windows devices. Microsoft officials see 3 potential audience for PowerApps: business users, professional developers, and IT pros who will control and manage PowerApps. Earlier this year, Microsoft job listing described PowerApps as a possible billion-dollar business opportunity for Microsoft. A free version of PowerApps will allow users unlimited creation and use with 2 cloud data sources per user. The standard version will enable unlimited app creation and use with unlimited cloud data sources, including Office 365, Dropbox, Dynamics CRM, Salesforce, and more. And then, of course, an enterprise version will be available with an unlimited app creation and use, unlimited cloud data source, and on-premises data sources, including SQL and Dynamics. The enterprise version will offer users a dedicated infrastructure, not shared with anyone else, plus app governance, access control, and reporting. So this is essentially a way to take some interesting bit of data that your organization has on the network somewhere and fart it into a mobile app that users can view on the go. That's essentially my take on this. Is that what your take is?
Can't you say VBA and Access?
Right, exactly. This is VBA and Access for the new generation. And you know what? It is actually going to be a pretty solid idea because there's a lot of Excel spreadsheets, a lot of ODBC connectors out there, a lot of SQL databases, a lot of Dynamics databases, and you could feed them into a few apps with some crappy front ends, and Bob's your uncle, publish it in the App Store, publish it in the Play Store.
Oh, yeah. No, there's a lot of scary things still being done with Access.
Yeah, man. I worked for a very large local bank, the largest local bank in Washington, and their entire back end ran off of for the transactions you did at the teller station.
Yeah.
They ran off of each branch had its own Access database, and then at night would all get merged into a System 390 system.
Ooh.
Yeah, man, that was what I dealt with.
You know, it's funny. The bigger and more prestigious the company, probably the scarier the IT infrastructure.
So now you have this sort of way to create really cheap, plentiful apps that you can just sort of pump out. Is this, and maybe some of them won't even bother with the App Store or the Play Store. You know, they'll just do direct sideloading.
I don't think anybody's really. I don't think these are really meant for the App Store. Right?
Here's why I thought it caught my attention, though, because legitimately this feels like something that somebody could hire Buccaneer to do. And so now Microsoft is sort of making it something that the IT guys on premise can do.
Yeah, I mean, Microsoft has always so there's 2 audiences they're trying to serve, right? There's the development companies, developers, and then there's the IT people. I think we can both say from experience that IT people don't love it having developers come in general.
I would agree.
Yeah. So I would, first of all, no one's seen this in production yet, right? No one's seen this actually running or you know, what are the limitations? My bet is that this will certainly be good for internal, you know, we just need to crap out it really quick, you know, like we just have an Access database and we just need to, like something quick and dirty, a proof of concept. I also think that's very good there. Something an IT manager could create to convince his superiors that actually having a custom solution developed is the way to go. To be honest, I don't see this as a threat, is what I'm getting at.
I don't know if I agree with you, actually. I think it is a bit of a threat to a sort of easy business that would be easy to design templated apps for, that you would just have to kind of come up with some common back-end connectors. And I don't know. But at the same time, it seems inevitable. So I wouldn't get all that worked up about it. But it does.
I mean, the size of the project that I see this working for is relatively small, right? In terms of size of what the contract would be billed at. So I don't know.
I guess.
I don't see it really being robust. I don't. I could be wrong, right? But I mean, and to be fair, history is on your side. There are plenty of organizations, you know, running VBA and prod as like their main infrastructure. I would also wonder, you know, what is the ability to then pump this type of application out to like a web administration portal? Or is it that they assume you're using Access or something like that, one of their other products, and you would deal with it that way?
Yeah, that would seem to make a lot of sense, actually.
Right. So it seems like you have to already be in. I mean, my reading of this article this morning was you have to already be in the Microsoft ecosystem really deep for this to be attractive to you. And I'll just be blunt. Most times when I talk to a company who's that deep in the MS ecosystem, we usually don't win the contract. for the reasons of we don't do a lot of that stuff, right? So we're
That's a
not
good point. So if you're already this deep in,
right.
yeah, and you know what, that does ring really true to me. That rings pretty
I
true.
mean, to be honest, my bigger problem is if somebody's on Access and someone finally convinces them to move off of Access, the logical step tends to be .NET, like ASP5 or ASP4, rather than something we would provide. If you think about it, the concern is, and you know this from yourself, if it's a Microsoft shop, pitching anything that's not Microsoft is, I mean, uphill battle doesn't even explain the pain, right?
Uphill battle, no, because that sounds like you make progress and you eventually get somewhere that everybody's happy with eventually.
It is not. And perhaps it's. I guess you're right. If we were a Xamarin shop and we were like super into the Microsoft ecosystem, and anybody who's listening who is that, yeah, this is probably a little bit of a problem for you. But only on the low end, I would say. I still don't agree with Chris that this is going to be like, you're not going to lose a $50,000 development project because of this. You'll lose a 5 to 10, right? But I could be wrong. I mean, Access has been contorted to do all kinds of awful things it shouldn't.
Dude, for years.
So yeah, at the end of the day, IT managers, and no offense to you, Mr. IT,
Hey now.
will go with the cheapest solution. So there's definitely, and this is another problem with us going into a Microsoft shop. It is never the cheapest solution to just dump it, right? And unless you're going to keep your existing infrastructure and just do like an API layer.
To be honest, I believe this is really the one of the big successes of Azure is they gave people a path to stay sort of in the Microsoft ecosystem and not have to reinvest in all of that infrastructure.
Yeah, that's a big market, and that is a huge strength for them. But I also think it's a weakness in a sense that they've really conditioned their IT managers, their development departments, and just their whole community to not update things and to be, a little more conservative than
absolutely.
like really, really to the point of like I would almost say negligence.
I would agree.
But obviously, they're trying to do it. My real fear would be: are people really greenfield projects? Are they really Are they really implementing Microsoft? And two, VBA. Seriously? Or even access of any kind?
Yeah.
Like that would be if they had a solution where you could just do your data in Access and then Azure would magically make you a web front end and magically make you a mobile front end. That would be more scary, right? Because I could see a lot of, not to be prejudicial here, but let's say older IT managers who've Excel macros were how they got into it.
Right, it's worked this long. It's worked for me this long.
Being really hot on that. And just like projects don't even get RFP'd. You don't even see like a call for submissions. That would be a much more disturbing scenario than just being able to crap out an app that reads your Access database, which is effectively what this is, right? They can call it whatever they want, but end of the day, come on. This is about Access. This is VBA.
I think that's an excellent summarization. Some analysis. Ooh, I like that one.
Analysis.
Can I just? I'm gonna make it a word. I'm gonna own it too. I'm gonna own it. Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I'm gonna own that. I'm gonna make that.
Computer, what happened?
Oh, okay. Well, interesting, and it was just a little bit of breaking news. Today actually, as we went on the air, the story just came out literally a half hour before we started the show. And, well, to be exact, 28 minutes before we started the show. And the thing about that is there is nothing going on this week news-wise. Hoopla-wise, it is...
It's not great.
No, so I was impressed with a little bit of actual news. And
Microsoft is like, wait a minute, Apple and Google aren't doing anything?
Right, yeah.
What do they got?
Maybe Google's everybody's cashing in on their 10% time right now, so yeah. But I thought it was still like there is a little bit of I think legitimate fire to the smoke, where their PowerApps probably will be, and it's interesting. It's interesting to see Microsoft kind of the way they did this. So there was there's a multi-stage approach that I think we could kind of now look back at and sort of see how it's all clicking together. So Project Sienna I think it's, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it was a business development tool that we heard about a couple of years ago, like almost 3 years ago, and then totally went on the back burner. Nothing came about it. Then, oh geez, I can't remember the date. I went and looked, but there was a Microsoft job posting back, I think, in April. Yeah. It was back in April. Here, in fact, Mary Jo Foley did a post on it over at ZDNet. Microsoft is working on a new set of Azure mobile-first, cloud-first microservices for business users. An effort some at the company say could become another billion-dollar business. Now, I remember catching this and being, and Mary Jo got the story primarily off of a job posting where Microsoft is essentially laying out the groundwork for these PowerApps in this job posting. So that was back in April. Then last week, we see the announcement that the Android bridge had been canceled, and no word on the iOS bridge, right? And then you see this. And I'm not saying these two are a one-to-one replacement, but what I feel like it is Microsoft saying this is actually where we can actually put some serious momentum, some wood behind the arrow, if you will, and this is where we're going to focus and push this forward and see where it gets us. Because if you look back at their history, like you've just surmised with Access, they've had a lot of success there. It makes a lot of sense they have a success here. And I can think of how real estate companies and construction companies and medical companies, all of these...
Chris, whoa. Starting to scare me a little bit.
I can think of all these companies that could use something like this. I mean, this is a serious. I think it's really going to work.
See, I don't think this is a replacement. I mean, if you look at all these projects, replacement for the bridges, I'm saying, if you look at all these projects as if you were to just draw them on a board, it's almost like a stairwell, right? It's like a ladder of, who is the person using this? At the bottom of the rung, the least technical, we have this thing, right? Above that, we have Azure Mobile Services, right, which is basically their answer to parse. Above that, we have the bridges. Okay, so now you're a developer, but you just don't give a rat's ass about developing for Microsoft. Great.
It's let's get Crossy Road on the Windows phones, quick and easy.
Or, I mean, realistically, you're a company, you have iPhone deployments, and you have for some weird reason, Windows Phone deployments. And
you merged with a company that accidentally bought Windows phones.
Something like that. Some guy was drunk, bought a bunch of Nokias. And, you have your iOS vendor just develop it, and then, by the way, use this bridge, another 100 hours.
What could go wrong?
Everything. That's not the point, right? My point is that there's a scaling of who is the target audience here. It's almost like those old Scholastic books, right? 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade. We start at the bottom with the business people or the IT people. Then we go up to perhaps developers who just want to do a quick front end using mobile services.
Right.
And then we go up to, okay, now we're going to support bridges, which they've obviously not done. And then above that even, we have all this support for Cordova, and now they're talking about even supporting Ionic and Visual Studio Code a little deeper. And
they have the open source initiatives with .NET.
Right. They have all the open source initiatives. And then beyond that, I would even say the open source .NET is like one layer above that too, where it's a little more advanced. To be honest, it does sound like they're just shooting and trying to get somebody. But actually, if you look at it that way, as a graduated scale, it shows some pretty good forethought of, you know what, we're not doing great in this more modern development ecosystem.
It shows genuine, honest analysis of their situation.
Right. It's really smart. It's like, we know we're not going to win all of these battles. We only need to win 2. Really. If they let's just say you're right, even though I don't think you are, that this thing is effectively going to stop me from being able to close small projects with companies that have Microsoft, right? That is awesome for Microsoft. Because that means a guy like me can't go in and be like, well, your problem is you're using Access, and we don't do Access, and for these security reasons, blah, 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 blah.
I remember the heyday where you would have somebody who was like the office gal or the office guy, and then he went and took a couple of courses on Access, and now he was organizing all of the company's information. And honestly, Mike, I think that unless you see, here's why this feels like a big deal to me, I guess I should say, is because I could not tell you how many small businesses I have worked in, but unless you have been a highly, a long-term, I guess I should say, like, you did like 10 years of IT contracting, you probably would have been in a similar experience. But I mean, I couldn't even tell you, but it's a lot of offices. And so many of them, Mike, have glued together different parts of their information world with Access. And the way they did it, and every time it was, they have the books, they have the Microsoft training, they got the person that comes in and sits down and does it. And before those things were there were entire programs that companies used to buy and pay yearly support contracts to manage this information. And now it's all in Access. And a lot of times, too, really nice front ends, which is exactly what these PowerApps will be.
Absolutely. I mean, not to throw more mud, but a lot of people are doing that with Salesforce, although Salesforce has made it a lot better in terms of being more open to third-party developers and having APIs, so you can actually just use Salesforce as a database effectively.
Yeah.
I kind of, why can't there be, let's call it Access Azure or something that's like that, right? That, there's a lot of things about Access that are scary. But there's a lot of things such as, your assistant can use it and you don't have to hire a developer to do it. That just makes sense, right? I mean, I'm shooting myself in the foot here, but honestly, for, a small store, you don't need your own custom implementation if you're just one retail store, right? If you're a distributor, if you're a warehouse, anything like that, you probably should go a little bigger. But if you're a mom and pop coffee shop, you could probably get away with it. It would be nice if they had a little more advanced tool that was a little more open, so that when that coffee shop grew into a chain, there was an easy path forward, right? I'm assuming your coffee shop did well, Chris.
Yeah, of course. Or maybe it could be like a coffee pizza shop.
Well, you're in Washington, so I'm not even gonna, you're telling them, you guys are doing great.
Hey-o.
But I don't know. I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe the Satya boogeyman is coming for me, and I'll just miss Balmer. But
okay, all right. Good enough, Mr. Dominic. And the thing is you wouldn't want those contracts anyways. It'd be boring as hell. Boring as hell. You know what?
I didn't say that.
Oh, that's true. Take them.
No, you know what? Boring is good.
It is, isn't it?
But I want to get taken to task.
Okay, all right. I mean, yeah, we should get to that. I every now and then I put a little kindling out there, and I just put a little. This is a serious pro tip, by the way. I'm not even joking. This is I'm talking in metaphor, but you'll see why. Sometimes what I do is I take a little kindling, really nice thin dry wood, and I put a little. So when you make bacon, which I'm sure you all do, at 400 degrees. In a cold glass pan, in your cold oven, no preheating required. You just put bacon in there, cook it at 400 degrees, 20 minutes. You pull it out. It's perfect. Go look at danbenjaminsbaconmethod.com. Then what you do, serious pro tip, take some paper towels. After you take the bacon out, you put the paper towels down in the glass pan. You soak up that bacon grease with a couple of layers of paper towels, okay? Then take the paper towels and, save them in some foil, just save them for whenever you need them when you're going to light a fire. And then you take the kindling, and in this case was commentary, and you take the bacon grease paper, you take it out of the foil, you put it underneath the kindling, and you light it on fire. And what you have yourself there is some serious fire starter. You will be amazed how little bacon grease and kindling you'll think you poured gasoline on this business. It's a nice clean way to recycle your bacon grease, starts your fire up, and metaphorically speaking, that's exactly what I did last week when it came time to talk about Swift on the server side. I put a little bacon grease and a little kindling together, lit it on fire, and man, do we get some emails. So before we get into that, I want to thank DigitalOcean. DigitalOcean is another sponsor here on the Coder Radio program, and man, are we thankful for DigitalOcean. Use our promo code CODERDIGITAL to get a $10 credit. CODERDIGITAL, that's one word, lowercase, CODERDIGITAL, over at DigitalOcean.com, which is a simple cloud hosting provider dedicated to offering the most intuitive and easy way for you to spin up your own rig. And this is why I really like DigitalOcean. This is why they're a sponsor. They have a really good infrastructure. They're all SSDs. They use Linux for the back-end system, KVM for the virtualizer with their own, secret sauce there. They have a beautiful interface that is very nice to use. Way better than everybody else's, but still very powerful. They have a rockin' API, tons of great open source applications built around that API. $5 a month for the base rig. That's the DigitalOcean pitch right there. It's nuts. And you can use the promo code CODERDIGITAL. You get a $10 credit. You try it out 2 months for free. You'll get started in less than 55 seconds. At $5 a month, you'll get 512 megabytes of RAM, a 20 gigabyte SSD, 1 CPU, and a terabyte of transfer. And they have data center locations in New York, San Francisco, Singapore, Amsterdam, London, Germany, and Toronto. And though, oh man, like I'm talking like 40 gigabit E connections to each hypervisor, fastest SSDs in the biz. It is really nice. And you know, the other guys are trying to improve their infrastructure. Too bad they kind of made the wrong bets. But I love their interface. You should really go check it out. Use the promo code CODERDIGITAL and just go deploy some applications. And they have really good documentation. They've recently introduced floating IPs, and there's some really sophisticated stuff you can do, including high availability and failover and all kinds of stuff just using Docker and DigitalOcean and their new floating IP service. You can basically get what used to cost thousands of dollars a month for a couple of dollars a month. And if you use the promo code CODERDIGITAL, you support this show, you keep us going, and you get a $10 credit. Check it out. DigitalOcean.com. And a big thank you to DigitalOcean for sponsoring the Coder Radio program. And thanks to you guys who've been supporting them throughout the year by using that promo code CODERDIGITAL. DigitalOcean.com. Thanks, DigitalOcean. Okay, so last week we talked about, or in Coder Radio 180, I guess that wasn't last, yeah, that was last week. M. Hot, I think is probably how you say it, right, Mike? That sounds legit. He wrote in and said, the Swift hate in this episode is intriguing.
It's negative in the freedom dimension.
Chris's reaction seemed to lack any technical basis, writing off Swift as a front-end only language that shouldn't enter the server market. I take it Mike thinks investing in Swift is a waste of time when he's highly proficient in Objective-C. And he says, to Chris's points, yes, there are already lots of great server-side languages and frameworks available. If these suit your needs already, then great. However, if you don't like JVM or .NET runtime bloat or poor performance of Python or Ruby or Node.js or the inexpensive type systems of Go, then Swift might be a good alternative. As a Java and C# programmer, I would love for Swift to join the ranks of server-side languages. I can compile it to static binaries like Go, so no bloated runtime required. It has an excellent type system that interfaces with system libraries written in C better than most languages through bridging headers. And the no stop the world garbage collector should mean predictable response times. IDEs already exist from Apple and JetBrains. What remains really to be seen is what kind of standard library will be available. Yes, I agree. I certainly don't want all the Cocoa baggage coming to the server. If the devs can put together a standard library similar to Go's 1.0 library with an embedded web server, JSON support, and some database connectivity, well, then I'd happily use it. Honestly, writing server-side code isn't any harder than front-end development. It's the zero downtime deployments, performance monitoring, database management, and other operational concerns that make back-end development a challenge. A good ops person on your team can take the language you use, which could be anything, even JavaScript. Thanks for the great show, Chris and Mike. Some pretty good points in here. And I was really kind of curious when I was talking about Swift if we would get anybody defending it. It was sort of, kind of, a little bit of bait. But at the end of the day, I still, I thought a little bit about it later that day. And I kind of stand by my basic premise on what my main core issues are with using Swift on the server side. But at the same time, that is an area that changes so rapidly and has so many esoteric little edge cases that it seems like there's never any wrong tool if your job requires it. And so I don't really, I guess on the face of it, have any issue with Swift. I think a little bit of what my, the thing that really kind of got me fired up in the last episode is the way they were talking about perfect. First of all, they called it perfect. And then second of all, they said it's like the new coming of all server-side languages. Meanwhile, Apple hasn't even delivered on all of the source yet. So they just came across as very arrogant sort of rookie front-end, hotshots. And that was sort of the more offensive thing about it. I think at the end of the day, I don't really care if you're calling a bash script through, or running PHP CLI. Have at it, Haas. Whatever you want to use, it gets the job done. And I do kind of agree that you should be able to use just about any language in a system that has to be able to scale like crazy. I do feel like in those situations where zero downtime, performance monitoring, database management, and other operational concerns like, monitoring, alerting, metrics, it is sometimes better to go with something a little more tried and true. But overall, I don't really have any issue with Swift on the server. I think it's going to be probably maybe competitive if Apple actually delivers. What do you think, Mike? Any follow-up thoughts?
I don't think it's going to be super competitive just because it's requiring change, and that's probably not something that people are going to want.
That's a good point right there.
Yeah, I'm sorry. He has a point, right? So the hate on Swift is kind of knee-jerk. I hate Swift for other reasons. But, eventually, unless Apple totally, Cocoa Javas it up and says we're not going to support this in a year, which, God willing, we're all going to have to do it.
And it might be very useful to be able to run it on the back end.
It may be. I'm still skeptical. I still don't see particular value of Swift.
So
the other point about the standard library is huge, right? Because Cocoa is not meant for, servers in a very general way.
Yeah, the baggage there and what they actually make available, what you and the other component about this is it's not just we're asking Apple to deliver a standard library for Linux.
Right.
It's got to work on a Linux box, okay, for it to be successful in the server-side language. So what are they going to do there? And that is why I was sort of offended by Perfect's approach. I'm even offended by the name. So we'll wait and see. Apple said by the end of 2015, and I don't know if you've checked your clock, Apple, but
we're good.
Yeah.
Get it out of here.
All right. So before we leave this week, I mentioned on the pre-show just briefly. I don't know how possible this is, but what if we did we have. We only have. I mean, I figured we'll probably take the Christmas holiday week off here on the Coda Radio program, which would be the episode on the 21st. Our next show is on the 7th, and then we only have 2 more shows until Christmas.
I know.
You and I, assuming we have something for the 21st. I mean, that's a tough one because we could technically do it, but it'd be really nice. It'd be nice to be able to shut down production at JB for that week and have everybody take the week off. But we'd probably have to come up with something clever. Anyways, that said, I don't know if I'll remember to do this, but I was thinking you and I should pick a couple of different beers for the next couple of episodes.
Sounds good.
And then the audience could crack open a beer with us, and then we'll have a couple of beers while we're drinking, and we'll drink a couple of beers during the next 2 Coda Radios. And I don't know about the 28th, which would be the last Coda Radio of the year. It'd be kind of maybe fun to come together and do something kind of like end of or full year retrospective kind of thing as our last episode of the year. But anyways.
Okay.
That's for problems for future Chris and Mike to worry about. Present Chris and Mike and the audience just need to go grab themselves a beer and then join us live over jblive.tv for the 7th and the 14th, which will be the last 2 shows before the Christmas holiday of Coda Radio. Wow. Holy smokes. It's starting to get cold outside, so that makes sense. Mike, is there anything else we want to talk about? Anything else on your list?
No, I think we're good for the day.
All right, well, then I'll just plug jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar to get our live time in your local time. Boom. Go to jupiterbroadcasting.com/contact to send us an email or codaradio.reddit.com. We have feedback threads for 181 over there. Also, you can send in links for things we should talk about. We'd love to have all of that at codaradio.reddit.com. You can follow Mike. Go find him on the Twitters, or, you know what, just check the links in the show notes to his articles that we talked about today. Don't forget, we've got the swag giveaways for the Patreons. We'd love to have you get involved in that. And there's a last jacket, teespring.com/LASS-US or LASS-EU, depending on your location. All right, buddy, thanks so much for tuning this week's episode of Coda Radio, and we'll see you right back here next week.